Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment video. My name is Wood. Get into a little bit of boxing, and then you saw the big hitter was Draymond Green against Kendrick Perkins, and Draymond made a statement last week about new media, and guys like him, active players doing podcasts, former players doing podcasts. Perkins' role over at ESPN as one of their NBA analysts and whatnot. So I get to that. Quick note, a little bit of housekeeping I meant to make note of yesterday. This past weekend I went out to Indianapolis, spent Friday, Saturday, and Sunday over there to support or participate in the first Major Taylor National Invitational ride, National Invitational weekend, and just had an overall decent experience. Over 500 some riders participated. Like I said, it was a meet and greet ride Friday morning. Like a big the long distance ride on Saturday with like 3 or 4 different distances that was involved, and then Sunday was the Juneteenth ride, supposed to be like a recovery ride, but I had a pretty good time. I thought shout out to the people that organized it. It looks like, I think their name was kind of like Bikes United Indy or something. So I know to put together something like that, and the first of its kind with it was Major Taylor groups there from Los Angeles. They probably had the largest group, 30, 35, maybe even 40 different MTCC LA people. Chicago was there. Louisville was there. The Iron Riders, the Detroit Cyclones were there. Major Taylor Dayton was there. Major Taylor Cincinnati. A brother out of Columbus was there. DMV representatives. It was decent. It was decent. Again, the first of its kind. Everything's not gonna be perfect. Some expectations, might fall short and whatnot. But overall, man, they put together a pretty decent event, and word is that national invitational is it may move around to different cities in the future. So we'll see how that happens. But if you're thinking about cycling, you can Google your local Major Taylor Cycling Club, and that might be a way for you to get involved. Quick entertainment note: I finished up the 8th and final episode of on Apple TV Plus, All the Shining Girls, or The Shining Girls is the name of it. And I'm not gonna lie, the finale kind of landed a little flat for me, but overall, the 8-part series wasn't too bad. It kept my attention and it kept it moving along, but it got a little, when it went from its thriller and its suspense and the tie-in that was the sci-fi tie-in of it, it got a little shaky there. But I enjoyed the series. Boxing, little note there before I talk about Kendrick and Draymond. This weekend on the Zone, just saw earlier where Julio Cesar Martinez was supposed to fight McWilliams Arroyo. Martinez fell ill and pulled out. I did not read the article to see if they've named a replacement, but this is unfortunate for Martinez because this is like the 3rd fight that he's withdrawn from for some kind of reason. And that's all been within the last 8 to 12 months or something. So hopefully it's not a trend that continues, but it definitely seems to be a trend. Like I said, this is the 2nd or 3rd time. I want to say 3rd time he was scheduled to fight, and something came up the week of, or maybe 2 weeks out, and he didn't fight. So I think that's a pretty good hit to the card. It's down in San Antonio, I believe, is the host site. The other fight on there, that's a nice spider right there. The other fight on there makes me want to make sure ain't nothing behind me. Okay. Um, but the other fight another fight on there that I didn't mention was Morozdan Akhmadaliev. I believe he's 100 and super bantamweight, 122-pound champion. Is he a I thought he was a unified. Uh, anyway, he is one of the champions in that division. There's talks of maybe Akhmadaliev, MJ as they call him, and Stephen Fulton, Cool Boy Steph, getting it together at some point in time. However, they could work that out. So this is a chance to see Akhmadaliev getting in, and he's fighting Rios. I'm not that familiar with Rios off the top of my head, but super bantamweight being one of the better divisions in all of boxing, maybe top 5, maybe even top 3. Uh, that's a fight to watch, and I forgot to mention that yesterday, I think, when I was talking about it. All right, so Kendrick Perkins versus Draymond Green. Draymond Green went out of his way at the post-fight press conference. Post-game press conference, maybe after they won the series. And, he wanted to make comments to get Kendrick Perkins together. I don't know. I can't remember if Perkins picked against Golden State. Maybe he had the Celtics. He played for the Celtics. I think he might have won a chip with the Celtics, I thought. There's been these guys have clashed, with words in the past, I believe. I don't even remember what many of Perkins' his takes were throughout the postseason and throughout the finals. But I know Draymond looked dead into the camera and made a comment about this is why he said that new media, in his interpretation of it, new media's objective is to educate fans about the sports that they're watching and about the players and the situations that they're watching. And that's what in Draymond's opinion, that's what separates new media from the traditional media, and the guys who've been doing it the last, 50 or 70 years or whatever. And like I said, you have the Pivot podcast now. You have LeBron and Maverick Carter have their thing going on with the shop, and I think their uninterrupted Instagram page. Brandon Marshall, I Am Athlete. We have a slew of former players now in various combinations on radio, sports talk radio, Sirius XM, ESPN radio. We have Speak for Yourself with Marcellus Wiley and Emmanuel Acho over on FS1, NFL Network, NBA TV. It's all kind of combinations out here. It's NBA. It's an NBA Sirius XM channel, and Draymond was just like, that's what new media does. We're not out here to seek out controversy and stir things up. We just want to educate the fans about what's going on. I don't agree with Draymond. And maybe some programs, maybe some platforms, do accomplish that. But even just looking at Draymond Green as a prime example, if you remember the sit down that he had with Kevin Durant a few months ago, or earlier in the NBA season, maybe even prior to it, obviously it was something to click on and watch, because we know those two played a significant role in things splitting the relationship ending in Golden State with Kevin Durant opting to move on after his 3 seasons in the Bay Area. And if you took the time to watch that and listen to it, like I said, I'm assuming it went viral. It had all the clicks and plays, views, comments, so on and so forth. But if you listen to the interview, they never got around to what we wanted to really know. They told us what they wanted us to hear, and they told us that they made some very defiant statements towards the front office and executives, and wanted to reiterate that the players control everything and they have the final say, and yada yada yada. But they never really dealt with. They danced around it and they laughed at what happened, and they told us that, well, y'all thought this, but it was really this. But they never got around to, well, why was Kevin Durant so eager to leave and go to Brooklyn versus staying in a place where they probably could have competed for more finals and maybe won more finals. And they never got around to that. So I also disagree with Draymond that he got it wrong in terms of, just because us as sports fans supporting these leagues, these players, and these events, it's not that we want to hear controversy. Sometimes we just want to hear the truth, and the truth of, and the actions of what some of these players actually did, what they actually said, is really not controversial. It's just historical record, what happened. And but I agree with him though that these players get tired of this newer traditional media, where a lot of your beat reporters, beat writers, and team reporters and whatnot, as a lot of them have moved away from newspapers and writing online and just going straight to being media personalities and doing so much in the podcast and digital space. They get to create all the narrative and the discussions and decide what's what on everything. And the players, increasingly don't like to be mischaracterized. They don't like to be criticized, especially unfairly. They don't want to be, they don't want to be held accountable for a lot of things. But I mean, damn, you can't get paid $50 million a year. You can't get paid $50 million a year, play for the best organization in your sport, and compete for the biggest prizes and the biggest accolades in your sport, and also control the coverage of it. Like, you can't have it everything. You know what I'm saying? And we all know, with the podcast space, YouTube, it's enabled anybody who wants to invest the time to do it and to stick with it, and the network and grow and yada yada yada. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to speak about facts. You don't have to be unbiased. You don't have to be right. It's a wild world, and the players are just like, they want to have some say in it. They want to have some control on it. But that doesn't mean that they're good at their job or what they're trying to do. As a matter of fact, a lot of these guys, I really don't care too much for Kendrick Perkins, his analysis, and the angry, loud guy shit that he does and can't pronounce names, and some of his speaking altogether isn't really my bag. But I salute the brother, because it's money to be made there. You know what I'm saying? It's a way to be relevant. It's a way to get your personal brand out there. it's a way to make good money after your playing career. And if you're concerned about having your say and using your voice and having a platform and all of that, it's competitive as hell. And you can go out here and if somebody is willing to give you a check, then you get that check. So I don't knock or begrudge Perk for doing his thing. He's just not a guy that I'm all that fond of watching. But again, it's not like these shows are infallible or they're perfect. The I Am Athlete podcast to me is very shallow. They had Javante Davis on there a while ago, and the interview was worthless. It was a waste of an hour and 20 minutes or something. The Pivot podcast with Floyd Mayweather. Obviously, you want to click on that. Floyd's name generates a lot of clicks and buzz and so on and so forth. But if you sat and listened to it, Floyd sat here and told you, I stay so busy generating or creating generational wealth. He said it 20, 30 times. And they never really followed up on that. They never really asked him anything about boxing. They never asked him anything about his role as a promoter. Those of us that follow, it was worthless for us. And they just talked about it like, hey, when that YouTube check comes in, that YouTube money comes in, that's what it's all about. And, it comes down to the public to be more demanding and to have better taste. But it don't work like that. So now, shout out to the Pivot podcast because they do have one of my favorite people on there right now. I haven't watched the interview yet or the episode yet, but they have Coach Mike Tomlin from the Pittsburgh Steelers on there, and Coach Tomlin is one of my favorite sports figures and one of my favorite head coaches. That does not mean he's one of the top 5 coaches or top 3 coaches. But I respect Coach T. That's one of my favorite dudes in the in all the sports. And one thing that came out on an earlier Pivot podcast, I believe, was they talked about the fact that while Coach Tomlin is one of the he was down to the only one, I believe, this last round of hiring. Nah, because you got the biracial cat in, I believe, in Miami. Lovie Smith took before all the positions were filled, he was the last one standing when everybody was fired and they started interviewing. Lovie Smith got on in Houston, the dude down in Miami. And then Todd Bowles came on. He joined the head coaching ranks after Arians stepped down. But one of the things that came out on Coach Tomlin was, even though you're one of the few, year in, year out, you're one of the only black coaches, the knock against him was you really don't have a coaching tree of other black, coaches. Guys who've worked their way through the ranks, position coaches, the coordinator slots, to go on and become head coaches or attempt to become head coaches. And I'm wondering if they got to that question on there to let him explain it for himself. Sometimes when blacks are in charge of certain positions, that's the immediate question is, what are you doing for other black people? And it's some lofty expectations out there when you appear to have the main position and you aren't helping others. And how are his hands tied? But what they did do this year was That's where former Dolphins coach Brian Flores, I think Brian is his first name, but that's where Flores right now. I believe they brought him in to be the defensive coordinator, and I think that's just I'm optimistic that it may not be over for Flores as a head coach, as a capable head coach, or what appeared to be a capable head coach, because of this lawsuit and fallout or blowback from this lawsuit, and because he was vocal about the behind the scenes stuff in Miami, maybe if he appears, I'm guessing if you can have a top 5, top 10 defensive unit for a few years or regularly, perennially, or whatever they call it, I'm guessing that you could be back in the running for a head coach position at some point in time. So I think that's very interesting, for Tomlin to be the head coach of the franchise, where Flores was able to get back on and be brought back into the fold as an NFL coach of some level. And I wonder if they get into that on this episode. So Draymond, I'm still not a fan of active players doing a podcast during the season. Because, if you're going to do it right, it requires a lot of planning and a lot of thought. And if you get into that game and you want to chase growth and success, and then once you start getting endorsements and once you get YouTube checks, then you start competing at that, and you have certain guests that you want to get on, and it takes an X amount of hustle to get certain guests on. And then when these dudes they went to Stephen A. Smith's house, to shoot that one. They've been in hotels. Shout out to Deshaun Watson. They've been in hotels shooting, shooting some of these episodes. You get into the logistics of all of that, the planning of all of that, and you want to deliver in a certain way. It's gonna take some focus off of what you're doing in between the lines. So I just think that's tricky. I'm not saying it's impossible to do it, but I know if I'm if I was a head coach, I wouldn't be happy that my guy is now messing around with this shit. Unless he has a good team, you could check in and see what the team, if there's a team involved, and this person is more so just the face, and what's required out of them is just when the button gets pressed, But if you got a dude that's trying to book guests, that's organizing and scheduling, that it can be a lot. So anyway, pay me no mind. Sports and entertainment. My name is Wood. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Peace. Have a great rest of the day.